Forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host for the Alabama Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Chris Morgan.
The Drone Apocalypse.
And Adam Camilleri.
How you doing, guys?
Hey man, do they have Halloween in Australia?
We do. It's nowhere. It's not like a huge deal. We have like a register. You have to put your house on if you're willing to even participate. So it's more like most people don't, but a handful of people do. But the people who do put in a crap load of effort is usually pretty good.
Oh wow. Okay, so you have to register. That's weird.
In Australia, people are very against being intruded upon in their own homes. So it's hugely frowned upon in Australia. So Halloween kind of walks into that territory. And so most local councils have made that you have to get permission to visit someone's home for Halloween.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
So 40k, hey, Paul, that's the thing we talk about on this podcast, right? 40k?
We do, man. And, as I've heard in other places, being Stat Center, you've been actually wrecking face with some DeathWatch and Blood Angels. So at least half the things that Chris Morgan's into, and you might want to tell us a little bit about that. You're also a Tau player from time past, and Tau been really dominating tournaments.
Well, yeah, so I took Tau to ETC this year and to the Australian ATC, which is our mini ETC where the states of Australia verse each other. So I took Tau to both of those. I did very well at ATC. I went 5-0 with Tau and got 93 out of a possible 100 for my score. So somebody took 7 points off me, and that's it. That's all I dropped for the entire tournament. But I didn't do so well with them at ETC. I don't know if you guys have heard about ETC. The sheer density of terrain there this year was actually obnoxiously incredible. So for those who don't know, ETC is the European Team Championship, but it's the WTC. It's the World Team Championships. It's the World Championships for 40k, and each country sends eight representatives, 80 best players, and you go there and you fight against other countries. America won it 2 years ago. It was fantastic. I was there. High fives all around. It was a great year.
Yeah.
I went this year, and usually there'll be 8 tables set up, and Australia will get paired with whoever, Serbia or whatever, and your coaches and your pairings team will pair you guys off to try to get advantageous matchups for you. And then whoever gets essentially the worst end of the stick, they get to pick their table that they play on. Now, usually there's a good spread of tables. There'll be 2 light tables, as in 2 light terrain tables. There'll be 2 heavy terrain tables, and there'll be 4 medium tables, medium terrain tables.
Do you think this is why you did well with the Tau? This is
why I did. Okay, this is one of the reasons I did poorly. Firstly, I think Tau's a very poor fit for me as a player. I did semi fall on the sword for the team because we were of the opinion we needed a Tau player to compete. And so I put my hand up for that knowingly, and I'll take that on the chin. That's my call. I made the call and I picked up the faction. But man, when we got there, 6 of the 8 tables were super, super high density. And we're talking, I played a guy who had 3 knights in the first round of the singles, the European Singles Championships, and he was able to hide 3 knights behind one piece of terrain in his deployment zone. I've never seen this before. I doubt I'll ever see it again.
That sounds so 40k though, right? That's like overachiever to the max on the terrain there.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Well, I think it was an overcorrection because I think the year before, it wasn't sparse. It was very short. All the terrain was very short. It was all like 3 to 6 inch high. This stuff, there was legit 30-inch ruins, like 12-story buildings. It was amazing, but it made Tau pretty subpar in a lot of ways. Because I was like, oh yeah, well I guess I'm just going to sit and shoot SMS for 6 turns. Either that's going to be enough or it's not. And that's how a lot of my games went. Now, I think ITC is a lot kinder to Tau than ETC is. ETC has a lot of layers of progressive scoring, like the Eternal War and then the Maelstrom and then the kill points on top of that. So ETC is like a multi-layered format. It's got so many facets to the missions. It's actually quite erroneous and overdone. But so the Maelstrom, hold an objective, get a point. On top of that, you got Maelstrom, which is draw a card. Oh yeah, hold that objective, get another point. Tau struggle with that a conventional Tau list is really, really bad at that format. Whereas in ITC, a conventional Tau list gives up virtually no points. I mean, people will pick Big Game Hunter and they'll have to have killed 42 drones before they've even got the option of getting a Big Game Hunter point and things like that. So denial in ITC is really Tau's shtick, whereas in ETC, I'm not quite sure it translates as well. What do you guys think?
What we've seen over here anyway is the drones basically, and paired with terrain, makes it a really super tough nut to crack. And so I think in things where you can be a little bit more predictable with your placement, whether it be because there's fixed terrain, or you can count on things that are completely blocking line of sight, they seem to be doing extremely well.
Absolutely. Well, I found that the ability to hide drones, like knowing that you're walking into a tournament and you'll have the ability to hide at least some percentage of your drone pile is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's like just an extra. You've got this massive, amazing security blanket in Savior Protocols, and then being able to hide them just puts a blanket on top of the security blanket. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so demoralizing when the Savior Protocols is working overtime. When just slightly above average 5+ rolls.
Yeah,
it's so demoralizing.
It's so disheartening.
It is below freezing down here, so like all this talk of blankets is making me feel good, but on the table, not so much. I've been burned by people misusing the security protocol rule, and man, it's one of those super obnoxious things in 40k.
It's bad when you're doing it the right way. That's what, which is when a wound comes in to a named cadre, you get to dump the wound to the drone on a 2+, and then that drone then gets to get its feel no pain. It becomes a mortal wound, right?
Yeah,
and then they get the feel no pain.
It's funny you mentioned DeathWatch before as well, because I picked up DeathWatch on the advice of a good friend of mine named Matt Morrisoli, who was the #1 player in Australia last year. And so I was actually pretty down about my ETC performance, and I needed to earn my way back onto the team this year for Australia. And he told me to take something really safe, to take something really reliable, really safe, something that's never going to get crushed, that's always going to get points. And he said, take DeathWatch. And it worked very, very similar to Tau in the fact that you had these different layers of defensive profiles that you could exploit versus different opponents and different weapons coming into you. Like, if you shoot any non-rend gun at a Tau broadside, or actually Tau anything, chances are they're going to take their armor save. You shoot anything with above rend 1, like anything rend 2 or better, you can take it onto a drone. You've got these multiple levels of redundancy and multiple levels of defensive profiles, and you always get a save. Like, you always get a save against everything. Just always getting a save is such a massive difference in the game.
Yeah, that's true. And when you can stack it up with some decent firepower, and that's one of the things that I don't think we got to see in full fruit, because a lot of things, the Tau got a big point increase in 8, and so it kind of put people off automatically. Now people are coming back around to it, and it's tough. It's a nice response to the meta. Like we were talking this week. We're recording during the finals of SoCal over here, and someone was watching it. And he's like, "Wow, what a weird top table! It's like Garden Knights in Tau. It's like a throwback, to a different time."
Well, I watched that entire game, and I felt the same thing. I'm like, this is nostalgic. I mean, every table under that was Marines. Like, second table, third table, fourth table, fifth. I think all of them had Marines on them. But yeah, just that. I think it's awesome. I think it's really good, because there was so much doom and gloom and so much the skies falling about Marines, and yet Marines weren't even on the top table. I think that's fantastic.
Well, not to get us back completely to Marines, but what are you taking now? Because you've been doing really well, and you've actually played in 2 majors in the last 3 weeks or so, month or so. What have you been building into your list?
So I've been taking 1,000 points of DeathWatch as the core to build around, and that's usually either 3 or 4 squads of DeathWatch vets. And that's, you have your Vanguard veterans, a couple of a bike in 1 or 2 squads, and then at least 3 or 4 Terminators, and then Storm Shields. So you'll have 6 Storm Shields minimum, and then you'll have 6 Storm Shields, and then either 3 or 4 Terminators, and then it depends whether or not if it's 3 Terminators, then you got a bike. If it's 4 Terminators, then they're deep striking. Now I'm taking that because, firstly, it's a huge misnomer. So many people were picking Marked for Death against me and maybe getting 1 point, because I played against a really good Orc player over here, and his shock attack gun went off, rolled the 11, went crazy, and I was like, oh crap, this is really bad. Shot twice, got a unit of DeathWatch vets down to 1 Terminator on 1 wound left, from a full unit down to 1 guy. And then he said, I guess that guy's just going to pop to morale. And I said, nah, Terminators mean the unit's fearless. And then I picked up that Terminator and used the homing beacon to put the Terminator inside an enclosed ruin. And he sat there the whole game. And it's just...
Homing beacon, that's an underutilized thing.
It is, but it is so janky, and it's so... Well, so that's the thing about DeathWatch. Yeah, they're Marines, but they're surprisingly dynamic. When that book came out, I said, this is what happens when you give Space Marines an Eldar toolbox. They've got an Eldar level toolbox of jankery with the Beacon Angelus. So that's when you teleport a unit of DeathWatch, any unit of DeathWatch you got, to the bearer of the relic. So what you do there is you put on a jump pack librarian, deep strike him down, and then the 1 unit of veterans that start on the board, because of the need to have you're over too many points. You can't have over 1,000 points off the board. You essentially deep strike that guy in there as well, because he teleports from the back line right into the front line, and usually deep strikes with 2 other guys as well. Now so I played the Tower versus DeathWatch matchup more than I played any other matchup in prep for ETC, and I'll give the 4-1-1 on my findings. So I played against Jeremy Martino, and he won CanCon, which is the biggest tournament in Australia. He's won that like back to back to back. He was Triple Crown, phenomenal player. And we realized that 3 Deathwatch units with the 2+2 wound rerolling ones, just shooting into a Riptide will kill that Riptide, and usually every drone you've got in your army as well. With 4 units, with 3 units, usually you kill the Riptide and most of the drones. Now we played that game about 10 times, and when he was targeting the drones, and then like the 8th time he was like, I'm just going to target the Riptide, and then he killed the Riptide, and I was like, oh crap. I guess
why was that the case though? Like how did that play out?
Because he's putting each unit is putting out 40 shots, or 37 to 40 shots, yeah? And they're going to be hitting on 3s re-rolling from a Watchmaster, and then you're going to pick elites as your target of choice for the reroll 1s, and you're going to use the 2+ poison ammunition. So you're going to be hitting on 3s re-rolling, wounding on 2s re-rolling against that Riptide. You're going to put so many saves on that Riptide that it's actually just going to die. Those 4 units is going to put around 110 to over 100 wounds on that Riptide. It's got 14 wounds. How many ones are you going to roll on 108-ish, 110-ish dice?
Okay.
It's just going to die. And then when you get it to...
I don't even need that many to roll those ones.
Exactly right.
15, 16.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, as soon as the guy gets down to about 3 or 4 wounds left on that Riptide, you're just going to start eating entire units of drones at a time. He's going to be taking handfuls of drone saves at a time. And I was starting games with 36 shield drones, 3 Riptides, 3 broadsides, and some suit commanders. And he was deep striking 40 vets down, and he was picking up about 32 out of 36 drones, and he was killing that Riptide as well. So my return fire, if I sit still, carry on, double shoot everything, I pick up 1, maybe 1.5 units of veterans, especially if he's in cover. And then on the return fire, he just picks up all the broadsides, and the game's over. It became such a huge disparity in knowledge about how people thought that game was going to go. It was really interesting.
Huh, man, that is pretty interesting.
And people look at Riptides and they automatically think, oh, it's got a 2+ save, I can't put that into it. But when you can make someone roll 90 2+ saves, it doesn't matter. They're going to die.
Yeah, no, I mean, it says averages say that. Hopefully you just, get average dice, but then I think the idea that you were talking about, though, is of them actually picking up like big chunks of drones at one time.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You're not targeting them to kill the Riptide. You're targeting them to kill the drones. Yeah. You're targeting the Riptide to kill the drones. The problem is you have to go through about 12 wounds on the Riptide before the guy gets scared enough he starts dishing them onto the drones.
Yeah. But at least you got the juice there to do it.
But then again, if you think about how you would do against the drones, so let's say you put 100 wounds on a unit of drones, that's automatically cut that in half for the 4+. That's 50, and then cut it down by another third for the 5+. So you only kill them between 32 and 35 drones, whereas you're taking 14 wounds off a Riptide and killing about 30 drones if you target the Riptide.
That's a better strategy.
Well, yeah, it just turned out to be so much better. But then we had this one aberration of a game where I just didn't fail any 2-ups, and I won. It's always on the cards, babies.
Well, that's why we roll them. Sometimes it works out for people.
That's right.
Sometimes not.
Sorry, I didn't finish that question. As for the rest of the list, so there's 1,000 points of Deathwatch, and then I was taking Mephiston, a Smash Captain, and 3 Enter Scouts. I love Mephiston, by the way. Mephiston is such a baller. And the only reason I took him is because I was expecting everybody to have Infiltrators, and Mephiston is a great way of killing Infiltrators turn 1.
Because it's close to you himself. And run up there and...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He'll just wings. He'll go in there. A 5-man or a 10-man, doesn't matter. He'll kill both.
Yeah, he's just really good at that sort of counter assault, things that are putting pressure on your lines. They don't want to tangle with him. It doesn't matter what they are, because he'll wound anything on a 2.
Exactly right. And he functions in a way which a Librarian Dread can't. A lot of people are asking me, why do you take Mephi and not a Librarian Dread? Because the Libra Dread, he kills knights very effectively, but he can't go into a box, can't go into a magic box. And so if I had Infiltrators in a magic box, I couldn't deep strike my veterans. So I needed somebody who top of turn 1 could go and kill a unit or 2 in magic boxes. And then past that, I was taking either Imperial Fist or Raven Guard, and that was going to be a baby Smash Captain. And everybody who's playing Marines, stop what you're doing and go and model up a guy with a jump pack and the Teeth of Terror. It's so freaking good.
The Teeth of Terror
so
is I think it's becoming more popular now, but you can easily miss it. So the Teeth of Terror and the Burning Blade are both really good, low point investment to get them kind of thing.
It's ridiculously good. So he's 103 points, I think, with the Storm Shield, and he's just a ball bag of a guy to deal with because he doesn't cost any points. So, and he was another one. He was the other way I was taking care of Infiltrators turn 1 because he'd move 12, go in there, and he'll have 8 or 9 attacks on the charge, hitting on 2s, re-rolling, winning on 3s. They'll get a 5-up. Each fail is a dead guy. So
the Teeth of Terra, if I can explain that a little bit, is that it's a damage 2 chainsword that you get 3 extra attacks with.
Not only that, +1 strength, -2 AP. So strength, strength 5, it makes all the difference. Yeah, strength 5 -1, -2 damage, and you're going to be starting off on the charge at 8 attacks, 4 base, 1 for shock assault, +3 for the Teeth of Terror, and it's just an upgrade on a chainsword. So you don't pay any points for the buy-in. You know, it's so phenomenally efficient. Now I was partnering that with either 3 Imperial Fist Thunderfire cannons, just because they're so efficient for 92 points, and they reroll, hitting on 2s with ignores cover and -1 because they're Imperial Fists. Or I was taking them as Raven Guard. Now, if I was taking them as Raven Guard, I was pairing them with 6 aggressors because there's this. So here's a funny talking topic. Turn 1 assaults was a thing that was taken away from virtually every army in the game. It was introduced and given wholesale to so many factions, and then it was systematically taken away from all of them. And now it's almost exclusively been given to Phobos units and Raven Guard. You guys got any reasons why you reckon that is?
Why it was done, or why those chapters are better at it?
Well, why they let this be something that the Space Marines are exclusively good at?
Well, I think it's
surely they were giving them enough.
Yes, but it also fits the theme, right? And that's but let me go back to maybe why it was done on a game levels, because when you had the Alpha Legion and stuff doing it at such a wide scale, actually a lot, not just the Alpha Legion, but lots of people do it, to where you could set up just a couple of inches away from people, you created a real fun sponge, and that's really what happened. Right. When there was so much stuff that could just set up right next to someone and not take any tactics, any thought at all past of where you just put your models down right out of the box. It wasn't fun. And now what they've done is added it back in my opinion, this is just one man's opinion, right? But they've added it back in ways that is slightly more complicated than that. And it's just specific to things that you might, in your mind, in the narrative, expect that to happen.
Yeah. Now, I'm not quite sure people have caught on to how silly some of the things Raven Guard can do are. But I was taking 6 aggressors with of course, the Boltstorm Gauntlets and Fragstorm whatevers. And then I was taking I was paying for another Warlord trait on my captain. And then I could pick what I wanted that to be. Either I could pick Imperium Sword, which lets him have reroll charges, 1 or either dice, which is the best version of reroll charges there is. And then if he made the charge, he'd get +1 attack, +1 strength. So then he's strength 6, -2, 2 damage with 9 attacks. It's insane. Or I was taking the Raven Guard one, which lets me redeploy him and 1 infantry unit anywhere on the table 9 inches away from my opponent. And so if I was going firstly, that would mean that those 6 aggressors didn't count as moving and they were within range of shooting, therefore laying down an absolutely heinous amount of fire. I think it's up to 140 odd shots.
Let me jump in right here for a second. Is that figuring out the trick to get aggressors to shoot is basically the only thing keeping them off the table. In other chapters, they can't. They have to burn a turn of positioning, or maybe even 2 turns, and so you don't get the effectiveness of them. Things like in Ultramarines, in Raven Guard, what we're going to see with some tricks with Salamanders. They're all going to be able to effectively deliver the aggressors, and they're going to be deadly.
They are absolutely deadly. And not only in shooting. Dude, that was perfect. And not only in shooting, I was really surprised at how well they did in combat. The first game I played with them was at the Men's and Masquerade event that was 2 weekends ago. And the first guy I played against was a Night Player, Triple Crusader, and a bunch of AdMech. And he had a character, Crusader, a couple of inches, about 4 inches back from the line, from his deployment line. And I deployed the aggressors, and I told him straight up what was going to happen, like what the Warlord trait was going to be, before the game started, as you have to. And he still deployed that way. And so I put the aggressors 9 inches away from him, and then I paid 1 CP to move them before the start of the game. So here's the thing, yeah. All I need to do, so the Raven Guard stratagem to move before the start of the game says you have to stay 9 inches away from your opponent's models, not 9 inches away from their deployment zone. So you can deploy 9 inches away from the deployment zone with the Warlord trait or with the Phobos or whatever, and then pay 1 CP and move into their deployment zone at the start of the game. Now, I couldn't do a full 5-inch move because he was only 4 inches in, so I could only be 4 inches forward. But that still meant when I went first and I moved my 5 inches with the aggressors, I had a 4-inch charge on that guy with 6 aggressors at the top of turn 1. I marked that guy for Kingslayer for the ITC points, and I went and got 4 points turn 1 because I charged him with 6 aggressors at the top of turn 1. I paid 1 CP for any 6s to hit to be auto wounds as well in combat. And yeah, I just killed that. I killed that Crusader top of turn 1. And it felt a bit. Sorry, I swore. It felt like I felt like a fun sponge. Sorry, Paul. I felt like an absolute fun sponge.
Well, you invested in it though. It wasn't like you did it for nothing. You did have to.
Yeah, I
put
didn't
the points into it.
I didn't have to fight twice. Was the crappy bit. I thought I was going to have to fight twice. I'm like, oh yeah, I could go in here, spend 6 CP, and yeah, I'll put this guy down, I'll get 4 points. That'll be a good trade.
So what you use the Master of Ambush Warlord trait at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. If this Warlord is on the battlefield, you can select one other friendly Raven Guard infantry unit on the battlefield, remove that unit and this Warlord from the battlefield, and set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models.
Yep.
Then you have to alternate.
I'd already zoned off any of. So I use your own scouts or your own infiltrators to zone off the landing spot for them.
Yep.
So that they can't place any of their own in that space. And then can you go to the Raven Guard one unless you move before the start of the game?
Okay. Then you used infiltrators.
One of the insane things about this is that it's just a move. It doesn't say it's a. So the Styges says you get Styges and Alpha Legion got changed to say they get a 9-inch move. This one's just a move. So I'm of the opinion you can advance with this as well.
Use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. Select one Raven Guard infantry unit from your army that is on the battlefield. That unit can move as if it were your movement phase. The unit must end that move more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. If both players have units that can do this, you alternate.
So there are so many ways. So firstly, there's a Phobos Warlord trait to give you 1 to advance and charge, and there's another Phobos Warlord trait that lets you advance. That lets you advance and charge. So if you were to combine those two that's 3 Warlord traits. I'm not sure how you go about doing that. Because I think you'd have to give 2 to 1 guy using the extra Warlord trait on a single model from the Raven Guard stratagems. That's a thing, yeah, Paul?
The Master of the Trifold Path, yeah.
Yeah. So you'd pay for an extra Warlord trait, you'd take the +1 advance and charge, and then you give Master of Ambush to 1 guy, and then pay for him to have the advance and charge one as well. And then all of a sudden, that unit of aggressors puts 9 inches away, moves and advances. Let's say it gets an average. Let's say it moves 8 inches. All of a sudden, it's 1 inch away from your opponent's deployment zone. Top of turn 1, it moves and advances again, and then you charge with a +1, even though you moved and advanced. And all of a sudden, you can get the bonus point in ITC missions top of turn 1. You can do all this amazing, insane things like wrapping people's Thunderfire cannons turn 1. They'll never get to shoot. There's so much you can do with Raven Guard that is just insane. But yeah, in this case, I used the infiltrators to move to still be 9 inches away from this Knight Crusader, because I think I was 13 inches away, so I couldn't declare a charge. So I moved 4 inches forward with infiltrators, then moved another 5 in my movement phase, and then had a 4-inch charge onto this Crusader. And managed to kill him in 1 round of combat. I was actually really surprised. I thought I was going to have to fight twice. But yeah, that stratagem that 6s to hit or automatically wound in combat on Power Fists is fantastic.
Man, that's a huge investment though, the CPs. But if you get it all done in turn 1, who cares?
Yeah, well, it's a kill. It was automatically 4 points for Kingslayer, and then he still had 2 nice left for me to farm the Titan Slayer points off. So it was actually kind of ridiculous.
No, I like that. You mentioned that a lot of people don't seem to be focusing in on this kind of stuff, and I agree. I think that the overhand right power of the Iron Hands, which I'm guilty of falling prey to for list design right now, also is a little bit easier to spot. This is a little more subtle, which is neat.
Well, I just think it's so I always talk about ceilings. I talk about different armies, different lists, different units having different ceilings on them. So you look at an Eldar Guardian, who's the one I always use. Its stat line and just its data sheet is its first ceiling, like how good it is straight out of the box. You take it out of the box, you build it, you paint it, you put it on the table. You don't take anything else into account. No craft worlds or stratagems or anything else. And then the second ceiling is how good you can make something, like through your own nuance, through synergy, through list building, all these things, psychic powers. And the first ceiling on Eldar Guardians is quite low because out of the box they're quite crap. But the second ceiling is phenomenally high. You can all sway them, you can make them hit on 2s, re-rolling, make them wound with re-rolling to win with Doom, and all these crazy other things.
Deep striking with 30 shots is pretty, with rending is pretty rough. Yeah,
having 2+ or even 1+ armor saves to tank shots on the platforms. That's what I mean about first, second, and second.
I get it.
ceilings. And Iron Hands, yeah. So Iron Hands out of the box, just if you looked at the faction, just by itself, you just took the Iron Hands supplement, has one of the highest freaking ceilings of anything GW has ever done. The FAQ has like knocked the top off that ceiling and has put in a new ceiling, but it's phenomenally high. But the thing is, Raven Guard might not be as high, but the ceiling is almost there as well. But it takes a lot more work to get it to work. Whereas Iron Hands, like you can get it to working at its full capacity quite easily.
While you've been drinking, and that's my plan.
While you've been drinking, standing on your head, spinning about, and you're extra dizzy. You haven't slept properly in about a week.
And I'm not going to have, because I've painted 2,000 points in 2 weeks is where I'm going.
Wow. How many models in that army?
It's not a ton. So it's 4 flyers, 3 Thunderfire cannons, 10 intercessors with and this is actually going to bring us to the next point of discussion. I think on the last show I talked myself into, with Matt's help, to take the Stalker bolt rifle for the heavy 1-shot 2-damage weapon. But it's, after reading some of the stratagems, now I'm getting super deep into this. It's making me at least question that choice again to see if I should be going with another bolter pattern. But anyway, 10 intercessors, a couple characters, a Dreadnought. I mean, it's not a ton. A couple of Invictor Warsuits, which I haven't built yet, so that's going to take some time. And I did in 2 days got all the flyers tabletop ready, so I think I'm on track.
Nice. Maybe you want to sling this on over to Chris. I think I've talked way too much already.
Well, the Blood Angels, Mephiston, right up his alley.
Obviously, I mean, never leave home without him.
No, he's the best. He's the best.
Yep. And it's interesting you bring up that Librarian Dread versus Mephiston debate. We've had that debate on the show a couple of times. It always comes down to me, Mephiston's reach, his accessibility into enclosed buildings, and also his second denial. Having one more denial is just such a big deal sometimes when there's something you need to try to get, to stop on the opponent's end. And for the points that you're paying for him, even though he kind of went up, he went up to 160, it's still worth it, in my opinion. I'm not going to tell you you're doing it wrong if you're throwing him in there, if there's any Blood Angels in there at all.
Nice.
What psychic powers have you been taking?
Wings, Quickening, and Blood Boil, usually. Man, Blood Boil, so I had a game against Eldar, and he actually had Shining Spears, the crazy dude, and actually did really well. But he had 2 units, and his second unit was kind of just left out in the wind. But he had, I think he had some Rangers that I was trying to charge with Mephiston, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll smite him. I did a wound. Oh yeah, okay, I'll Blood Boil him. I did 3, so Blood Boil works, you roll 2d6, and if you're equal to or below their toughness, you deal d3 mortal wounds. If you're double their toughness, you deal flat 3 mortal wounds. So I did flat 3 mortal wounds to these Rangers and put myself out of charge range. I was like, well, crap.
Yeah, that was really good to take against the low toughness armies. If you know that you're going to deal with stuff, and Rangers are a really good example of something. You have to be real close though, so that's kind of the drawback to that one.
I put Quickening on him, so he had the +3 to the charge, and so it was going to be I think it was going to be a 5 for a 6, and then I killed 4 dudes, and all of a sudden it was an 11, so it was actually outside 12 inches. It was 11 with the +3, so 14 inches away. I was like, well, geez.
Okay. And with Wings, you get a reroll, so there's that, right?
Yeah, but what I was saying, he was actually outside 12 inches, so I couldn't even declare the charge.
Oh, see, now that's just your own fault for being too
aggressive. Exactly right.
Too efficient.
Overachiever. or as my dad would say, that's what happens when Eldar are too wimpy.
Well,
exactly right. It was his fault.
Yeah, that's right. Getting himself in the way of the Blood Boil. Back to the bolter rifles. It's one of those to where it all links back. Like what makes the most sense to put in the army, and I think that because it's Iron Hands, the heavy shot doesn't matter so much, and then that 2 damage may really play into things, especially it being a heavy weapon. And then when you put it in the fact that you could layer the stratagem of potentially being able to target a character if you needed to, not that five shots, is going to be what puts it over the top for a character, but you never know. I'm not sure that I have the command points to invest in that, though. I'm only starting with 9 command points.
I just one of the DeathWatch variants I took to a tournament called Moab. I took 10 DeathWatch intercessors with Stalker Bolters. Now I took them because this was when the Marine. So this was, I think, 2 weeks after the Marine book came out, and so I was expecting everybody to have 40 to 60 intercessors because I just thought these were phenomenal. And people were telling me, oh yeah, they're playing Imperial Fists with 60 intercessors and the chaplains and +1 to win, +1 all this stuff. And I thought, wow, a friend of mine named Liam put me onto them, and I'm like, wow, so I got 10 shots hitting on 3s that could be re-rolling, and they're winning on 2s re-rolling against other intercessors, and then the intercessors get a 5 up or they're dead. It's actually really good. Against other Marines, against other Primaris Marines. Now, Iron Hands almost have the same thing. They don't wound on the 2s, but because you ignore the -1, you're still far more effective than everyone else with it. And I think Stalker Bolters are the best variant, as long as you have some way to get either get more shots out of them, either being through Imperial Fists or to, ignore the penalty for moving and shooting. I'm not sure. I do still really like him as Raven Guard as well, because you get the +1 to win against characters, and then you turn them into snipers with +1 against characters, and that's just crazy.
That's a huge investment. That's a 3 command point investment to do that. But sometimes you don't have any other option.
Well, it's only 2, isn't it?
No, it's 3. It's 3 for the
Raven Guard one. Isn't it 2 CP to target characters?
You're talking about. A second.
I remember it being 3, but perhaps
I believe it's 3.
No, I'm pretty sure it's only 2. It's 2 to target characters to Stalker Bolters. They're all 2. The one with the auto hitting with the Assault Bolters, the one where you get rapid fire 2 with the
target sighted is 3 command points.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, why do I remember it being 2 for so long?
The rest of them are probably 2.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Maybe I'm just wrong. But 3 is actually a massive investment. Mind you, with Raven Guard, though, when you're getting +1 to wound against characters, so therefore you're getting mortal wounds on 5s, and then you're 2 damage and all that stuff. If I was playing against GSC, and they have all these little 4-wound characters with, no save, they might as well not have a save. Well, actually, they don't have a save versus Stalker Bolters. And you can pick up 2 or 3 of those characters a turn, and all that whole army's entire synergy revolves around those characters being there for the +1 charges, +1 to wound, +1 to hit, all that stuff. And you can just use for 3 CP with 1 squad, pick up 2 or 3 of them. I think you probably do it.
Well, and also the Contorted Epitome is something that people take, and they've been taking in response to flyers.
And the Snare Lord, the White Scars, Snare Lord.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, again, 5 intercessors probably not going to be enough, but I think if I get gutsy and then run the flyers up there in harm's way and able to do some damage to it, then maybe I have to finish it off.
Yeah. If you're paying the 3 CP, you're only ever going to consider doing that if you've bought a 10-man unit. If you haven't bought a 10-man unit of 10 with Stalker Bolters, don't even consider that.
Or if it's down to only 2 wounds, or you've got to kill that one character that's buffing everybody around. I mean, I think if it's under 3 wounds or a 3 or 4 wound character, you got 5 shots, you roll the dice.
If it's Magnus or Morty, also you can shoot them anyway. I want to talk about. If it's like your Vrain or something, Farseers.
One of the
Malinthropes. I just realized Malinthropes. Wow, you're totally smoking Malinthropes.
The Magus for Genestealer cults that could take over one of your vehicles or something.
That's a prime target for something like that.
Yeah, taking away your opponent's massive Gnosis and the things that turn off Overwatch as well. Especially if you're Iron Hands, man. Ignoring Overwatch is the worst. But as soon as GSC don't have that anymore and they have to charge into a repulsor that's Overwatching on a 4, they've almost lost the game. It's so heinously crazy.
Well, if my plan hinges around 5 intercessors spurting 3 command points on them to have a hope at winning the game, I've probably already screwed up, but
probably. But yeah, I always talk about intercessors as 10-mans.
Well, it must be nice to bless with so many points to be able to put 10-man intercessors. I'm putting them in
says the guy who wants to take 4 flyers.
Just rub it in.
I'm putting them in the Impulsor.
For you.
Yeah. They got to fit in Impulsors. You can't put 10-mans in Impulsors.
How funny is the Impulsor meta going to be? God, they can't stay that many points. They can't.
That's one of the things we were talking about on the last show is that people are looking at lists like the one that I'm considering. It's not. I mean, it's taking things from other people's list and putting it, in something that I think is a little bit more dynamic in what you may see right now. But they're saying this is probably not going to survive chapter approved, so enjoy it while you can.
Well, so apparently chapter approved is already written and it doesn't have any Space Marine changes in it whatsoever. Also I've been told.
Yeah, the lead time on that's pretty long, longer than people expect.
Well, they said it was written and already printing before the Space Marines Codex was released.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I used to work in printing, and that schedule sounds right for that kind of distribution. Mm-hmm.
And plus, you got to get all those Impulsor sales before Christmas. So what are we talking about here?
I don't want to speculate too much, but let's just say I'm going to go back to painting then based on everything you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't have a choice. I got 2 tournaments coming up, so I got to get stuff in.
Nice. What tournaments are those?
Going to Coastal Assault here in a couple of weeks, and then there is it's claiming to be pro tabletop here in Atlanta, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
And
Yes, of course.
yeah, so we'll see how it goes, but I plan, this is one of those to where the list, I have not put the list on the table yet, because it was just kind of birthed. I'm playing, in a couple of days though, and so that's going to give me, incentive to get to that point, put all the models on the table. I don't like using proxies, and then
I'm not a huge fan either.
And my tournament, the first tournament I'm going to is in, 2.5 weeks from today.
Nice.
So I've got another 1,500 points to paint between now and then.
Do you have
plenty of time?
I've got captain on a bike that I'm going to make a chapter master. So most of my command points are already gone before the game starts.
You're not bringing a dread? Like, I'm still of the opinion that one levy dread and one mortis dread is still pretty amazing.
I am bringing a contemptor dread with 2 C-beams.
C-beams, nice.
C-beams, man.
And you're just going to make him a character and he's just never going to get targeted.
I don't think I've got the CPs to do that, but I'm going to put him next to 3 Tech Marines running Thunderfire cannons and, like, shoot at him if you want.
Nice. That's nice. I like that. There's another thing. If anybody is running the triple Thunderfires, try and get some mileage out of those techies. They're actually really, really good. I had a guy deep strike a bunch of orcs behind my lines and thought, I'm just going to charge and kill all these techies. And so I spaced him out enough that he couldn't charge all 3, but he charged 1, got in there, and then the other 2 walked over. Well, so that one he wasn't able to wrap it because of the way I had the Thunderfire. I was able to back out of combat, flame him with the other 2, shoot him with the pistols the other 2, charge him with the other 2, and I made him pop to morale. It's like 20 orc boys. Almost 30 orc boys deep struck in, and between 2 Thunderfire cannons and the 2 techies, I killed them all.
Well, what some folks don't realize is that the Tech Marine running the Thunderfire cannon is a full-on Tech Marine. Like he's
a full-blown Tech Marine now.
Servo harness, flamer, plasma pistol, basically power fist arm to swing one attack with, and he repairs the full D3.
So if someone tried to pull me up on the fact that they said that the plasma pistol is a plasma pistol, and it's not. It's a plasma cutter. It's assault. It's not pistol. Meaning you can still shoot that and the flamer. A lot of people think that the plasma cutter is just a plasma pistol. And think that you can only shoot one pistol.
Yeah, right.
If you're shooting pistols, but it's not. It's an assault weapon, so you can shoot both.
Yeah, that's kind of an addition bleed thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a layer from times long past.
So wish me luck on painting. I think I'll get it done. I'm pretty fast.
What's your method? Are you a contrast, an airbrusher, or a straight up and down brush?
Mostly brush, but I do like for the white, I airbrush that on. The army is Luna Wolves, so some of the stuff is white, some of the stuff is black. I get to kind of pick and choose what it is. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's I like the variety, and I get to like create little stories in my head about why this guy's from the first company hanging out, or why somebody from one of the other companies is hanging out with the with a black squad. Whatever.
I like that a lot. And you're not a masochist because you're using an airbrush for a white army.
It's the only way to get it real super smooth. And where I was going with the white is that the micron pins helps me panel line, and if it's one of like the things you're not going to see, like you never look at, like the underside of the wing or the wing panel, something like that. The micron pin, sometimes it doesn't look as organic, so I kind of float between whatever I need between using a wash, like a soft black wash, or the micron pin, depending on what you're going to look at. So that's a big time saver.
Nice. I painted a Black Templar army, and all the white in that army I painted by hand. So all the shoulder pads and a lot of knee pads and the face masks and stuff. And good God, God, never again.
I'm actually terrible at painting white. So if I have to make it look good around it. Like I've got to make the other stuff on the vehicle look better.
Yeah. So with this, I found that there is such a fine line when you're glazing white, because you go with an off-grey base coat, then you glaze on the whites. There's such a fine line between it being nice and flat and being chalky garbage. It's like 2 coat. There's a 2 coat difference there, and usually you're putting on like 7 to 9 coats of the white.
See, and that's why I don't mess with it. What I do is I put in the wash, and sometimes it's not as smooth as I want it to be, so then I have to go and touch up the white. So my white is actually just like ruddy shade and then 7 layers of white to bring it back up. So that's but it looks all right. I'm really pleased with how it does eventually turn out. And I should say eventually, you can get I got these done. I got the base coats, what I consider the base coats on them, or tabletop ready in a day and a half. I mean, that's maybe 3 hours work.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And then I'll make the other stuff look at the sigils and the lights and the engines and stuff. I'll make them look real good. So you're not so concerned with my kind of easy, quick white technique. And then when I get done or tired of painting white, then I'll paint a black model or a black unit. So mix it up.
I'm getting over painting black. So I went from painting Black Templars to painting a 30k inspired Dark Angels army, and so that's just black on black as well. So yeah, my days of enjoying painting black
and red and checkers.
Yeah, the checker. Well, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun art. Like painting a nice crisp stripe, red stripe, is one of the most satisfying things I've found in painting. Like first go, just painting a straight, perfect, crisp stripe. I'm like, that's just nice.
That's for the Dark Angels. Is that what you're?
Yeah. That's for 30k Dark Angels.
Yeah, the Here See. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
but it's a 30k.
Really nice looking scheme.
Oh, it's gorgeous actually, but it's a 30k 40k army. So there's Primaris guys in there, there's old school guys in there. The theory behind it is that the Lion's woken up and that he's like, what the F, guys? Why are you wearing green to represent Caliban? They tried to kill us. Are you guys stupid? Back to the black.
Get back in there.
Yeah.
See, that's what, we get some crap sometimes for building what might be extreme lists. But it's at least for me anyway, and it sounds like it might be the same for you. It's never too far away from what the lore is. I mean,
almost everything I do, except when I'm doing like an ETC or an ATC or something ultra competitive, where it's a lot more than just my efforts on the line. Like ETC, ATC, big team events, you're there for your team just as much as you're there for yourself.
Yep.
And so the team comes first. And
so because Warhammer, you're like, give me that model, give me that model.
Yeah, exactly right. Whatever you got to do, whatever you got to get to play your role for the team, just do it. But if it went into my hobby and when it's my time, even if I'm playing ultra competitive, I like to have my much stuff locked down. I like to have my narrative backed up by what I like about the list or what I like about that army, about that faction, like stacking plasma in Dark Angels or trying to play Black Templars as a close combat army, which is just a massive waste of time and energy. But there we are.
Maybe someday. I hope the same thing too. I like the Black Templars, but the Coastal Assault has a little bit of a relaxed hobby requirement. Stuff's got to be painted and everything, but like it doesn't have to look the same. And so I could shift into the borrow hammer, even borrow from myself. Oh, give me my Blood Angels, and because I have 10 painted intercessors for the Blood Angels already.
Yeah,
but I'm trying not to do that.
Oh, dude, there's this intercessor army I've been knocking about in my head. Because there's the 5+ Feel No Pain banner you can take on a Sanguinary Guard Ancient? If you were to, if Blood Angels get the same treatment and buffs on their intercessors as regular Space Marines, and you put, say, 50, 5 10-man Blood Angel intercessor units around that 5+ Feel No Pain banner, just wow. Just walk that at people. What are they going to do? Come on.
Let me tell you, here's an extra hobby pro tip. Use the Reaver heads.
Oof,
for those
Blood Angels.
For the Blood Angel intercessors. I've used them. That's how I actually squad mark like 5 that have the Reaver heads, and they look real intimidating. Well,
I wouldn't want to advocate myself painting another black army, but Primaris Marines as Death Company look fantastic. They look fan-freaking-tastic. Just, I don't know, the stances, they look tough, they look mean, they look good.
Yeah, it's God. What you can do with these. So anyway, I don't mind intercessors coming back, and I hemmed and hawed for the longest time about what troops to put in the list, whether in cursors or whatever. And I went back to intercessors and saved a point or two, got some extra, spread some love around to the rest of the army, and then going with this Impulsor. Like the Impulsor gets a lot of shots, and everyone's telling me, hey, take that shield dome, and the thing is basically never going to die. But I kind of want to put a couple extra guns on there and just use them as. I don't know.
Well, if you've got that, so the reason to take the dome would be if you were trying to protect something, like to keep it as a screen, as it's made to -2 to charge, and then if you've killed it, there's another 5 guys that are still screening when they get out. But if you're playing flyers, you're just ready to push. Just go for it. Just chuck more guns, more DACA. Who needs to take saves when they're already dead? So
that's it. Yeah, if they have nothing to shoot at you, then whatever. And I'm taking the missiles on one just for a little bit, a couple extra wounds on a flyer or something, and then the frag grenades on one of the others, just because the points worked out that way to put me right at 2,000.
Why not, man?
But it's 2d6 shots.
Cool.
I mean, that's whatever. It's extra. But you were talking about what that Impulsor meta. I think you could conceivably see 6 Impulsors, 7, 8, 9 Impulsors.
I know we will. So I keep a group of friends, which I call like the think tank. And these are guys that are always innovating lists. They're always pushing the boundaries of what you can fit in 2,000 points. And I've got a good friend named Mitch Pelham, you might know him from the Best in Faction podcast. And he keeps advocating this like 8 impulse list, just 8 impulses, just full of guys. And just like, I'm just going to outscore everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you pick. Well, so he's going to probably play, like, he loves his space walls. So he'll play him as space walls. He'll bubble them all up around a cover giving, Wolf Lord on a bike, probably. Oh, sorry, the Rune Priest on a bike. Give them all +1 cover. They all pop smoke. So then they're -2 to hit. They'll be with, be 2+ armor, 4+ involve, -2 to hit. And you got like, they're going to move up into the middle of the board. And then turn 3, they're going to Voltron out and spread out and just tap all your stuff that shoots and just take the entire board away. And there's not going to be much you can do about it. And then he's talking about just putting 5 intercessors with a Thunderhammer in each one. And so the Thunderhammer gets out, hits on a 3 with like 4 or 5 attacks. Things like the Wolfenstone, all this stuff. There's just nothing you can't really handle. Yeah, in the right hands.
Life in the space. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We may talk about some hobby stuff. May talk about the flying Dreadnought for 30K. But Adam, thanks a lot for joining us for this segment.
No problems, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
I'll see you guys in a second. Cheers.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
And we are back. It's me and Chris.
How you doing?
What's going on, man? Man, talk about some hot tech from down under.
Seriously, he was on fire.
It's really nice for him to be able to join us on his time. So hopefully we weren't too much of an imposition on his day, but it was great to have him in.
Is Antarctica the only continent that we haven't had a guest from?
I think so.
At this point?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, the glories of modern technologies. Praise the Omnissiah, guys. Bringing you content from all over the world.
We need some scientist from some country to phone in from Antarctica, and it will be complete. I don't know if they get to take their 40K models with them when they go down there. I don't know.
Question for the ages, man.
Yeah. Well, let's say this flying Dreadnought from 30K, Horus Heresy, is finally available to get. You think it's going to make its way into 40K?
Well, I feel like that's up to us. We just need to demand it loud and proud that we want to play with this thing in 40K, and maybe it'll happen. I mean, maybe.
Well, what can it do?
Well, the cool thing about this Dreadnought is that it has a one-time, like a one-off booster pack that lets it do one of 3 things. So the first thing it lets it do is just act like a jump pack once a game. So all of a sudden you've got a 12-inch move on your Dreadnought. So that seems good. Dreadnoughts typically are known for being kind of slow and plodding across, and most of them are built in range loadouts. So having that little extra movement makes kind of a big difference, right? The other thing it can do is before the game starts, you can just decide to set it up in Deep Strike. So it's just a Dreadnought. It doesn't require a drop pod. That's a fast attack choice that you can just put in orbit and drop it down whenever you're ready to bring it down. So that's also a cool thing. The last thing it can do is almost like they pull this straight out of 40K is it can have a 3d6-inch charge range once per game.
Oh, it's because of the jump pack boost or whatever?
That's right. So you can, and all of that comes with old stuff that most people in 40K don't remember, like dangerous terrain tests or, stuff like that. When going into terrain or whatever. It's pretty cool all in all because the weapons on it, it's a Dreadnought that has 2 close combat weapons, but inside of those close combat weapons, you have assault cannons. So think about that. If it did port over to 40K, right? You've got 2 assault cannons in the fists, and then you've also got a fist that does exploding wounds, and you have another fist that doubles the strength that can kill vehicles and get additional attacks. So it's also stronger than other Dreadnoughts. So most other Contemptor class Dreadnoughts are strength 5 or 6, depending on the type you get. This one's strength 7. So even without a strength increase, it can glance another Dreadnought on a 6. The ideal loadout. Oh, and it's fleet, I should mention. So that 3d6 charge range is rerollable inherently. There's a lot going on with this Dreadnought. I really like it. I really like how it's a fast attack choice and not another elite slot, or because there's tons of elite slots in this book. But having something fun like that, I do remember, Paul, back in the old days, like 5th edition Blood Angels Codex days with the Death Company Dreadnought that had the talons that could just go forever.
Yep. Yeah. Basically, if you got a wound, you reroll again.
That's right. This feels like that brought into like the proper balance, because you have this Talon of Perdition, they call it. And honestly, who doesn't want something like that? Yeah. Wolverine wants something like that. And it does multiple wounds per hit. It's perfect for basically dealing extra. And you can't ever kill more models than you can hit, but you can inflict enough wounds with your attacks to kill multi-wound models that you don't necessarily need to have extra attacks for. And it makes them roll all the saves separately. So it's a really fun, melee, choppy Dreadnought with an invulnerable save. It's got extra movement. It's got extra strength, extra attacks, a higher weapon skill, and it's just a ton of fun. Like it looks like it's going to be a blast to roll with.
Yeah, I think anything with that, with all those abilities that you can kind of pick and choose what the best tactical option is neat.
Yep. And you can, of course, spend the points if you want to customize it to however you want, but and it's interesting because the Thousand Sons have the Librarian Dreadnoughts and Horus Heresy, but we have a Jump Back Dreadnought, and having the ability to bring something like that in either in 30k or 40k would be a lot of fun. Just who doesn't like the idea of big stompy robots?
No, they're really good. I think that it's one of the main engaging things of the game. So, whatever more. If you can find a way to make them cool, and that's why I was curious if you thought it was going to make its way into 40k. I don't have my finger on the pulse of Horus Heresy anymore, but I did build my armies to be dual purpose. It's kind of one of those hobby addict tricks, as if you can build for multiple game systems to get your models, more use out of your toys, then why not do it? So I've built my Blood Angels are all Mark 6 or below armor. Mm-hmm. And the same is the truth for my other Marines as well. Now, as more Primaris creep in, that's not going to be the case, but, I'm not doing anything. Those other models I have aren't going away. Most of the Marines I have for the Lunar Wolves are all like Mark 2 and 3 armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of, even with my Primaris, I've been painting them with a Horus Heresy scheme so that they all look like they belong together. So I've taken some of like the trim patterns that are on the models, like the Dreadnoughts and the Crimson Paladin Terminators, and I've brought in, usually by freehand, and I'm not the best freehander, but good enough for something like this, just bringing in some of those design elements, the gold trim, some of the more filigree looking things that can just make the army still look good together. And it's kind of easy for me to do that too from a lore perspective, and I care about that maybe more than some others do. But some of these Primaris Marines did actually fight in the Horus Heresy and volunteered for this program or were assigned there by Gilliman. So we have, Primaris Marines who are old enough to have fought with Sanguinius, and how would that affect them and their relationships with the new Marines and things like that. Maybe we'll see some cool dialogue about that come up with the, with some of the new Blood Angels books that are coming out that will feature Primaris, I assume. But, the whole package is just a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, it's neat. Oh man. So, the hobby segment, I'm going to be just elbows deep, shaving mold lines and building stuff and painting stuff. And so I'm basically focused on painting white and black, and I'm going to do my darndest to get everything up in my regular Space Marine color scheme. And it's taking me back to decals, and like squad insignias are going to be my friend. They're going to be able to draw the eye and make stuff look good, even if I don't have the right amount of time to focus on things. So the finishing move segments, spending an extra 5 minutes of everything that we've learned over this journey as we've been talking about, I'm going to pull them all as much as I can to bear and be picky and choosy. So if I had to pick my top 3 finishing move segments, I think I'm going to go with, for this anyway, the decals, the painting areas of interest, like one shoulder pad or a knee pad on models, and then go back to faces and bases. So I'm going to try to make the stuff that people that will really see from 3 or 4 feet away be darn good. Taking this back to basics.
Now, have you do you put a lot of faces on your Marine models, or do you mostly stick to the helmets?
I don't mind the faces. So I actually like with especially with the Luna Wolf stuff. They wear a lot of top knots, and if you put a top knot on a helmeted head, it kind of looks Space Wolfy. But if you put a top knot on a bear head, then it on a regular Marine, without spikes or the embossed trim or whatever, then it looks like a Luna Wolf. So I actually try to work in where I can some of the top knotted. The Chaos Biker helmets or heads are the best for that. There are some other of the older Chaos Space Marines that are really nice heads, so I try to litter them in to give some areas of interest to me anyway, and also fit the theme of the army. I'm not always have to be helmeted. Look, I understand it's ridiculous to run into battle without a helmet. If Saving Private Ryan had told us nothing, when they finally get up the beach and the guy's
too soon.
Yeah, and he gets like a bullet ricochets off his helmet, and he takes his helmet off to look at the ricochet, and then gets shot. Like we know it's bad to take your helmet off in war, but this is where the game aspect can take over with a little modeling.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I think that we can have enough suspension of disbelief to think that maybe this guy is actually wearing his helmet when the bullets are coming in, but so far as how it looks and even ease of play, like unhelmeted heads are a good way to pick out those kind of sergeant models or whatever. And depending on how targeting rules go, I mean, we've had very different, you remember when it was closest model dies.
Oh, yeah.
So the ability to know for sure which model was the sergeant. So when you're moving and you could position things right, like there are certain convenient things that come around with being able to pick out models in units that behave differently. Oh. And sometimes those things aren't as obvious from 3 feet away.
Like I mentioned, squad marks. So like the Blood Angels intercessors I was talking about, 5 of them have Reaver heads, and they've got yellow skull mask on.
Right.
And the other half are the other 5 are the regular old helmet heads. Just to break it up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot easier than what it has in the Codex. I mean, and that's what I followed was the knee pads. You have to kind of lean down if you're going to pick out the knee pads, if you're going to have 2 squads pretty similar right next to each other. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try to make, anything I do, I just try to make it a little bit it's a communication thing, especially between people that you never want your opponent to feel like they are confused or whatever. And that's, we've talked about that a lot in the past. But my Thunderfire cannons, they're built, the main cannon is a Thunderfire cannon, and the housing around it is not. It's built to be a little bit more clunky and chunky to make it a retro Thunderfire cannon. Yeah, again, everything is previously built. But I've only got 2 of those, and I got 3 Thunderfires in the list. So what do I do? Probably going with a standard Thunderfire and then these 2 special ones, but trying to put together 3. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna work towards a unified look and feel of the army. We'll see how far I get.
Well, I look forward to seeing your progress. The flyers seem like they were coming along pretty quickly.
Yeah. So that was like a combination of the line pin washes and being quick with the brush. I don't want to say there is some amount of skill, but not talent. Just learned stuff over time, and people being very supportive on Twitter. You can find some pics up on Twitter at Warmaster_TPM or at Fights with Dice on Instagram, and people being very supportive of the effort, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. We'll keep it up. Keep sending the pictures. For my own hobby table, I'm doing a bit of palette cleanser now that I finished the Crimson Paladins. I'm working on a D&D figure that's. I took an old out of print Empire General kit, the one that has like the kind of the guy on the horse that's reared up, bunch of different weapon options, has kind of like some foot options. And I wanted to create like a narrative for this character where he had a spectral horse that he could summon, because there's D&D, there's spells for everything.
Yep.
But I thought, well, gosh, it would be obnoxious to have different weapons on the different models. So I did the dumb thing, which is I drilled holes all over the model to put magnets in so that I could magnetize a mounted and dismounted version of this model.
Brave.
And it worked. The cloak and both arms are fully magnetized, so they can. I can take the cloak off, put it on the back of the mounted guy, and also the weapon and the shield arm. So I went a little bit. I got a little committed with this one. Sometimes you just kind of get an idea, right? And you just burn through it, even though I'm terrible with magnets. But this worked out. I couldn't magnetize the head though, because I already had 3 magnets in close proximity in the torso, and I wondered if I would break gravity by trying to do any more. But so far so good, man.
Good luck. I know magnets is super tedious, so when you get it all done and complete, let us know how it worked out.
Yeah, sure thing.
All right, we'll do, man, Chris.
It'll be a fun little project.
Yeah, thanks for joining me tonight, and we will be back next week. I'll keep everybody up to date on this whirlwind army build.
Dude, I look forward to hearing about how that's going and then how it does, and maybe we can also help me build a list for the Rudder GT coming up here in December.
We'll do it next week.
Right on, man.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Cheers.
Father.